film, gaming, pop culture. Welcome to episode 20 of Everything is Permitted here at Wade's Comic Madness. I'm your host, Julian Brown, alongside my co-host, Matt Reppert. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
You know, another day, a special day. It's Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Before we get into rants and raves, just a couple of quick announcements. We are excited to announce that we have brought on two very awesome social media coordinators for Everything is Permitted, Brittany Tomes and Heather Borjan. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Awesome, man.
So all of the fun stuff and articles that you've been seeing on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram lately have all been them. A little bit of me, Matt. Also, you share us with us some awesome stuff to get up there. So
yeah, I'm not gonna lie though. Every time like you guys mention Heather, I keep thinking you're talking about my wife.
I know we got to deal
throws
with,
me off every
with
single time.
the two Heather thing right now, but it's cool. It keeps us on our toes. That's actually, we don't really have a lot of announcements. I guess the only other one is we'll have a show for you next week as well, and then we will be taking Memorial Day weekend off, and we'll be back at the beginning of June with a new episode. But instead of continuing on with the little announcements that we have, Matt, rants or raves?
So I'm going to do a little bit, and it's a positive rant actually. I had to look this up again because I had heard about it before it happened. But the walkout of Riot Games employees that happened a few days ago, basically they walked out to protest forced arbitration for sexual harassment claims. And apparently the story is that Riot Games, the company, allegedly forced two plaintiffs in sexual discrimination cases into arbitration last month. And also apparently 5 former and current employees have filed lawsuits of the company since August. Now this is
Jesus.
Yeah, and you know, that's the thing is that I would assume the walkout is to protest the fact that, you know, you're forcing them into arbitration. Like, why aren't you going after the people who supposedly committed these sexual assaults and all that other stuff? But I view it as a huge positive for the gaming industry because this is kind of my feeling is maybe developers or the grunts, if you will, of the gaming industry. And if you don't know, Riot Games apparently worked on League of Legends, which, you know, is a big game.
That's like a big MMO, right?
Yeah, it's I know it's a big thing. I don't play it myself, but I've heard about it a long time. I know it's a big thing. And I view it as a positive, as a step in the right direction, because, all right, if you're going to walk out to protest something as egregious as this, you know, maybe not too far down the road, you can start working on, hey, let's discuss better pay or benefits and stuff like that. So, you know, good on the employees of Riot Games for standing up for their coworkers, and hopefully other employees of the game industry can kind of take notice.
Well, yeah, it's good that these stories, I mean, it's not good that, you know, anyone had to file any kind of claim on, for sexual harassment or anything. I mean, that's awful, especially, you know, in what should be safe spaces to work, but it's good in a way that light is kind of finally being shed on the massive issues, both with overworking, abuse, you know, sexual assault allegations. It's good that it's all coming to light, and that, you know, this industry specifically is going to start maybe getting, I don't like to use the term regulated because that delves more into politics, but have a closer eye on it. You know?
Like being able to like maybe at least work towards fixing the very real problems it has.
Yeah, because there are tons, and it's finally, it's good to see the kind of the light being shined on that. I have a rant.
Okay.
I have a really annoying rant. Mm-hmm. I went to go see Endgame last night for my third and final time. I took
Yeah, 9 hours.
9 hours of Endgame.
I'm sorry, 9 hours and 3 minutes, would it be?
Yeah, something like that. Well, and if you count like this, I guess last night was like 25 minutes of previews, so 40, a total of 65 minutes of previews in 3 weeks.
All right.
Yeah. So I brought Rick. Rick came along. Rick Salvi. Half an hour into the movie, like, they didn't turn the overhead lights off, which is like, it's so damn frustrating. This happened during Captain Marvel before. It's happened during other movies. It's like, I feel like after a movie's had its run for a little bit, like, they just start like ignoring like some of the 24 screens that they have at the theater, and like 10 different people got up to complain, and like it took them half an hour to turn the lights off. Now, I assume at movie theaters, I've never worked at one, I don't know if you have.
No, I never have.
That the moment the previews are over and the movie starts, like, it's automated, isn't it? Like,
I thought it would be, but
I thought it was an automated system. So either someone dropped the ball or has been dropping the ball a lot recently.
Didn't give a damn. Like, whatever, screw them.
I mean, it's not as bad as what happened with Captain Marvel, with them like rewinding and fast forwarding the movie and the lights turning on, music playing over scenes. But on top of the lights not being turned off, there was a family who decided, and this is a 10 p.m. showing, to bring their 2-year-old to the movie. When is it ever okay to bring a 2-year-old to a 10 p.m. movie? I get bringing 2-year-olds to movies if you can't get a sitter, fine. If it's been in movies long enough, if you have an empty theater, fine. Like, whatever. 10 p.m., not a kid's movie, a very kind of dark film with some comedy relief.
Yeah.
And you bring your 2-year-old? You're not going to get out till 1:30? Like, what is wrong with you?
That's like, I know that during our Endgame review, I mentioned that there was a kid in my theater, and granted, the kid, because I remember I had this conversation with Heather not long after, and she was like, well, the kid wasn't that bad. I said, no, but there were certain moments the kid, as I said in the review, was like making noises, and it's like, shut up, please. I'm trying to enjoy this culmination of 10 years of movies, and your kid is yelling or talking during it.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, the kid was like, mommy, mommy, and crying and this and that. And luckily, the parents were smart, and, like, along with the light situation, I think finally decided this was a horrible idea, or someone complained, and they did leave. Now, here's the thing with that. Like, I actually feel a little, like, bad, because I understand not being able to get a sitter. I've run into the situation before. It sucks. I get, like, Last Chance. The movie's been in theaters 3 weeks. It was not full. So I get it. But I don't get the 10 p.m. But I still feel bad because, like, you paid the money to go see this movie. You thought this would be a good idea. And now you have to basically walk out of what is your impromptu non-babysitter date night. Like, I still feel bad, even though they shouldn't have done it in the first place. I don't know if it's the inner dad in me or not, but...
No, I understand. I mean, I don't have any children of my own, and I get that sometimes that life isn't always fair. You're not always going to get a sitter when you want. But I mean, my personal feeling is that this movie is probably something you should have planned for well in advance.
Oh yeah. I think I had a sitter like 3 months or 4 months even in advance.
Yeah, this wasn't like just like, oh hey guys, let's
go see Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, like, here's the trailer for Endgame, and oh by the way, it drops tomorrow. Like, wait, what?
I mean, like, I've been bad about last minute. Like, hey, are you available today to be a sitter? But like, if a big event like this is coming and you're not prepared, like, that's on you. Like, come on.
It'd be. I mean, it'd be like the equivalent of like you and your wife are going to take some like Hawaiian vacation, and you weren't going to take your kids, and decided to not make arrangements to get them taken care of until literally the last minute. Like oh hey, we fly out tomorrow. Hey, who's watching the kids for the next 2 weeks while we're gone? Like, oh, we probably should have looked into that. I
can get into stories about situations that we've had about that, but obviously this is not the show for that. But yeah, so the kid situation, the light situation, if the kid had stayed, I probably would have asked for a refund.
Yeah.
But I didn't. It ended up being
out of curiosity. How do you ask for a refund when you don't really pay?
You don't get the ticket? One, I paid for Rick's ticket,
okay.
So I could have gotten a refund on that. But what they'll do is they'll give you a like a readmittance pass, like it's basically a free pass to see whatever you want.
Okay.
When we had the Captain Marvel situation, they handed those out to people, and Karen used mine to go see Endgame for a second time this week. So.
Man, you guys are sick. As much as I enjoyed that movie, man, I could not do another 3 hours.
I was on the fence about seeing it a third time. I was like, 2 times did it for me. But had Rick not wanted to come, I probably wouldn't have gone. But going to see it with someone else who hadn't seen it yet was a cool experience. Getting to talk about it after.
Did Rick enjoy it? I'll ask that.
Yes, he did. He absolutely did.
Okay, great.
His only complaint was one I don't necessarily agree with, is that the team from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. should have like come through one of the circles, but that's also a whole another mess because they completely fucked the timeline with the new show. Like, God, I could rant about that as well, but we won't. Instead, we will get to
the permitted minute,
and we'll go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The full theatrical trailer has debuted for Spider-Man Far From Home with a spoiler warning from Tom Holland. The directors have also mentioned there is a scene in the movie that will rip your heart out. Bitch, please, you've been to space.
The Far From Home trailer also confirms that the multiverse does indeed exist in the MCU, as Mysterio gives Earth Prime its proper comic name of Earth 616. Sticking with Marvel, Captain Marvel will be released digitally May 27th and on Blu-ray June 11th. Mark Wahlberg really needs to hang it up or stop doing remakes. He's attached to the new Scooby-Doo because that's what everybody needs. Oh my God.
Yeah, what the hell? Apparently there's also, speaking of things that we don't need, a new Matrix movie being made. The Wachowskis may or may not be involved. I feel like we keep talking about things we don't want or need.
I know we killed it.
We did. I was looking for more. There wasn't a whole lot. Obviously, we do have some breaking news, which I just shared on our Facebook page. It'll not be breaking news to you guys anymore, but the Orville was renewed for season 3. And that'll actually take us right into our first segment of the day, which is the canceled, not canceled watch list. Obviously, this is a great piece of news for us. Karen loves the show. I don't know if Heather watches it with you.
Yeah, Heather and I watch it. We love the Orville.
Yeah,
it basically scratches that itch of Star Trek: The Next Generation. And I've been watching Star Trek Discovery the first season. You know, I watch an episode here or there on my brother's Plex server. And I enjoy Discovery. I don't think it's this dumpster fire that a lot of people think it is, but I do feel it is missing that element of like peaceful, like we're just going forth. We're not, you don't have this dark and gritty like the war has been raging for years.
Comes to fruition in season 2, which is fantastic. And I feel like the stigma of Discovery after season 2 very much has gone away.
Yeah.
Especially with the reintroduction, I should say, of Captain Pike, who's played by the amazing Anson Mount. I love Anson Mount. I could talk about that man all day. And his voice.
Do you have a crush on him?
What? Sorry?
Do you have a man crush on him?
I might have a small man crush on Anson Mount.
That's okay. Michael Fassbender has been my horrible man crush for years.
Yeah.
Perfection.
Anson Mount, rugged, like, he's got that rugged voice. He also did like one of my favorite TV shows.
Everything is permitted, indeed.
Everything is permitted. Hell on Wheels, AMC show.
I've never watched that.
Awesome. If you like westerns and you're kind of I'm a train nerd, so it's all about the building of the railroads.
See, I never watched Deadwood or any of those. And I heard actually, I know Deadwood, which has been off the air for years, is like getting like a movie or something.
I don't like to make heart jokes too much about my dad because he had open heart surgery, but he almost had a heart attack. He was so excited about the Deadwood movie. Deadwood's one of his favorite shows ever. Nice. So he was really thrilled about that.
But yeah, it's like back to the Orville. Like, I am very happy it was renewed for a 3rd season. I'm hoping it makes it past its 3rd season. Part of me doesn't think it will because of, like, I've read that like the ratings were down pretty good for the 2nd season.
Let's actually, we have some other shows that we're going to worry about. Let's keep talking about the Orville because it was maybe endangered a little bit. There was some talk that it might not have gotten renewed. I don't like to talk about hypotheticals, especially because we found out it did get renewed. But in this circumstance, I'll kind of allow it because, like you said, everything is permitted. Got to stop doing that. Do you think it would have gotten picked up by another network had it not?
I mean, I think it might have, because I had read that like they had, like the state of California, I think, which is where they film it, had already approved, like there was already some tax break that was approved for if they filmed a 3rd season. So that might be the reason why that this was renewed for a 3rd season, not because they're like, well, we believe in this show. Like, because remember that companies, the bottom line is their main care. But if you're going to say give the Fox Corporation, which I think is the corporation, it's not Disney, the Fox Corporation
this is
still owns the
offshoot now, the new Fox Corporation.
Yeah, the new
Fox and FX.
I'll probably just call it New Fox from now on whenever I mention it. But new Fox.
That new Fox is foxy.
But New Fox still owns the rights to the Orville, and I think at this point, like, they might just trying to be like, well, what properties do we have left that we can still maybe bank on? We'll give the Orville like another season. Maybe it'll catch on.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll kind of get that attention that we're finally seeking, because I feel like that most of the Star Trek series like weren't major hits.
No,
in their first season.
They weren't. Start Next Generation. The first 2 seasons were garbage. I think there was talk about it possibly leaving the air. Obviously, the show picked up and is now pop culture masterpiece.
Yeah, it's a legend.
But it's no secret that the ratings were down for Orville season 2, despite being a superior season to its first season.
It's like, granted, I haven't fully watched all of it, and I'm not going to spoil episodes, but it dealt with hard issues in modern day, but it did it in obviously the sci-fi setting, which Star Trek Next Generation did. It's bright and colorful. It's not this dark, gritty, like, yeah, there's a war going on, but like it's in the background. Like, it's not like, oh my God, like thousands are dying every day.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, no, it's a threat.
Which is definitely like a complaint for people about, Discovery, was that people were dying a lot. This was the Klingon War. It was one of the most bloodiest wars of Federation history. And the Orville is kind of that shows, because they debuted basically around the same time, each of their first seasons, and they're polar opposites: dark and gritty Star Trek Discovery, and bright, funny, basically like a Next Generation tribute with the Orville.
Yeah, I mean, the Orville is a love letter to the Star Trek franchise. Like, the Next Generation is obviously its primary influence, as well as elements of Deep Space Nine and all that. And Orville, and I know one problem that a lot of people have is what they call the bro aliens, like the aliens that, obviously they're different and weird, but they basically are like, hey, what's up, dude? I actually love that.
I do too.
I love really the fact that, like, there's these aliens but they've been kind of humanized to the point that, like, they have our mannerisms and our speech patterns, and they're just like, oh, hey, how you doing, bro?
Like, that's one of the things that Next Generation never really delved in. We're getting off topic and really just talking about the Orville itself instead of renewed and canceled. But that's one thing that, like, they never did with the aliens in Next Generation or any of their shows. They were never really humanized. But, like, think about, if you're a part of this giant federation or whatever I always forget what it's called, and the Union.
The Planetary Union.
Yeah, in the Orville, like, yeah, of course aliens would pick up some of our mannerisms and, like, things that we like. What's his name? The big blob. Is it Laffit or?
Oh, yeah, Laffit.
Yeah, like, he's awesome.
Actually, I love, and this will probably be the last thing I say about the Orville, and we'll go on to other shows. But one of my favorite things about the Orville is the alien Dan, the engineer. I think his name is Dan, and he's like,
bitch.
Yeah, and he's always like, and he's like this he's this comedic relief character, and he's always like, this weird stuff.
Wait, sorry. Is he the one with the big head and, like, the spots on his head?
Yes. He looks almost reptilian, but
yep.
But, like, there was this one episode where Bortus, who is, like, basically kind of the Klingon stand-in for the show, essentially, like, but they're not as warlike. He essentially has this addiction to mockless porn.
Oh, that's right.
And he's in the holodeck, and he created this program, and Bortus is married to another male, because that's what the
Mocking society.
Yeah, and so basically, they find this program, and they're like, these big burly mockless men appear, and they're like, we want to pleasure and service you, and everybody who's in there is like, no, I'm good, like, I'm getting out of here. And then Dan is like, hey, I'm Dan.
Oh man, the Orville's great, man.
Yeah,
the Orville's wonderful. So very glad to hear that it got renewed.
Yes.
Let's talk about some shows that other shows you might be worried about. I know you mentioned before we started recording Happy.
Yes, Happy is probably one of those unknown gems that most people haven't watched. The second season, I would say, probably isn't as great as the first yet, but it's still, like, it is one of the most twistedly funny, like, messed up shows. I mean, it has toilet humor, it has it has, like, humor, all types of humor under the sun.
And starring SVU's
Christopher Maloney, I think is how you say his name, and Patton Oswalt plays the voice of Happy.
I love Patton Oswalt.
Yep, Patton Oswalt is the voice of Happy, and just in case you've never seen or even heard of Happy, it's on the Sci-Fi Network. And if you don't know who Christopher Maloney is, for years he played a character on Law and Order Special Victims Unit, SVU. And he played, this kind of
Stabler.
Yeah, he played this hard-nosed detective, but believed in the law and punishing dirtbags and everything like that.
Bit of a temper. The show Happy is he plays an ex-NYPD detective who basically got kicked off the force for corruption issues. He was sleeping with, like, his female co-detective and stuff like that. And he is now a hitman. He basically suffers from, like, he has a heart condition, and he drinks and does drugs and all this other stuff.
and he basically he kills this trio of mafiosos who end up being the nephews of like this powerful mafia boss. And he essentially has a heart attack right after he kills them, and he basically for the first episode, he doesn't believe he can die. He's like, no matter what happens to me, I live. And so he has a heart attack, and he's like, I finally die. I'm finally gonna die. And he wakes up in an ambulance and discovers that there is an imaginary creature floating above him that is a flying horse, purple horse / unicorn that is chipper and happy. And its name is Happy. His name is Happy, and it's voiced by Patton Oswalt. And basically, Happy is the imaginary friend of a little girl named Haley who gets kidnapped by a deranged dude dressed as Santa Claus. And basically, Happy goes to find help, and so he finds this dude who can finally see him. And so the whole season is about how this hitman and this imaginary friend who isn't his are trying to find this little girl.
That sounds awesome.
It is insane. Like one of my most favorite lines of a show that I've seen in the past year was in the first season, where this mafio guy is like trying to torture him, and he's got him in like a hospital. Guy's got him strapped to a table, and he just goes, "I'm going to remove your penis in long, thin slices like salami." And he just and Christopher Maloney just goes, "That's going to take you a really long time." And he just looks at one of him and goes, "This guy gets it."
That's funny. Now, am I correct in thinking that it's only been one season of the show?
It's on its second season right now.
It's on its second season right now,
yes.
So looking to possibly get renewed for season 3.
Yes.
Okay.
They basically the first season focuses on Christmas, the second season is Easter.
Oh,
they said the forgotten holiday
okay.
that nobody cares about.
What are you leaning towards? Do you think renewed or?
I mean, everything I've read, it's a 50-50 toss up. I could see it getting canceled just because it's like the second season has kind of delved into more weird territory, which I'm not going to spoil for the sake of the plot. I hope it gets renewed. Because as I said, like I love the dynamic between Christopher Maloney and Happy. It's, fantastic banter between the two of them. And it's quite obvious that the makers of the show were just like, we're going to take some weird shit and run with it.
That sounds. I'm gonna maybe have to try and catch up on that. Worry for me actually, unfortunately, ended up happening, and it just prevented me from watching the second season of the show. Marvel's The Gifted was canceled.
Yeah, I saw that,
and we watched the first season and really enjoyed it. And we had the second season on our DVR. And I got the news it was canceled. I'm like, I just deleted it off my DVR. Like, to me, like, if a show's been canceled, like,
you don't want to be caught on a cliffhanger and be like, oh my god, but I know it's not gonna.
I couldn't do it. I liked the show a lot. I thought it was a really cool take on the X-Men universe without even focusing on the X-Men.
Yeah.
You got Magneto's daughter in there. Polaris is one of the main characters. I'm one to assume that it's post whatever happened in Logan, like Xavier wiping out all of the X-Men with his mind because he was starting to get sick.
Yeah.
And then, a kind of unfortunate event happened where a mutant killed a bunch of kids, and like this is like an explosion, and this is kind of like the fallout from that. And a lot of government oversight, like you get in a lot of X-Men stories about them trying to capture and arrest mutants and make a cure. It was a really cool show, great first season. I always forget the actor's name. He played Bill in True Blood. He was one of the stars of the show. Also from Angel, who played Winifred, was in. I always forget these actors and actresses' names. I'm horrible. I should know it. But unfortunately, the Gifted did get canceled. A show that got canceled. This was more last season, but a renewed that's coming back on for me. I'm so excited about. We talked about it before the show. Is Designated Survivor.
Yes.
Super excited. That's Kiefer Sutherland as the president of the United States, and still kind of badass like Jack Bauer. So I'm stoked that that's coming back. There's a couple of shows on Netflix that got canceled. One of them off the top of my head is Santa Clara Diet, which was with Timothy Olyphant and
I'd heard about
Drew
that
Barrymore,
show,
right?
never watched. Yeah, I've never watched it, but it was one of the shows I heard its name and I was like, that's kind of a weird name for a show, but whatever.
I kind of got out of order here, but since I talked about shows that I'm kind of happy are coming back, I know obviously Star Trek Discovery is going to be coming back as well. Any shows that have been renewed that you're excited that are coming back?
I mean, I don't have a list in front of. Like, honestly, I don't watch a lot of TV. Like,
you watch stuff like after the fact a lot.
Yeah,
right?
my wife and I DVR stuff, and we tend to try and watch DVR stuff on the weekend when we're both home. So, I mean, my intake of TV shows is rather limited. There are shows that I watch that have already been canceled, but like Timeless.
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoy Timeless, although Timeless was kind of given like a final episode.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah, and so I'm grinding my way through season 1, not because it's bad. I really enjoy the show, but just because like I have so much crap to watch. I still haven't watched Deadly Class.
Yeah, I haven't even watched Umbrella Academy yet.
Yeah, I haven't watched that either,
which I really want to watch.
Yeah, another show that is back, and I think it might be airing right now, might be streaming right now, is Lucifer on Netflix.
On Netflix, yep.
Because Heather told me that she heard that it's on there, so I'm gonna have to check that.
It's on, and it's also getting like rave reviews.
Yeah, Lucifer is a solid show. I really enjoyed it, and I know Netflix, and the actors themselves said that like Netflix can be a little more risque with some of the stuff that they did, which they couldn't do on Fox.
So. My biggest problem with Netflix right now is oversaturation.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's just too much stuff and stuff that like I want to watch Lost in Space.
I heard that was in.
I know, but I still want to check it out. Yeah. You know, like I'm a big fan of the old cheesy show Danger, Will Robinson.
Danger.
I actually was kind of a sympathizer. I know it wasn't great with the William Hurt movie that came out.
I enjoyed that when it came out, but I look back on it, I'm like, man, it really wasn't that good.
But literally last week, I just started watching and binging, I should say, Punisher season 2.
I still haven't watched that.
Oh, dude, it's so good. Did you watch season 1?
Yes.
Yeah, season 2 so far has been really good as well. I wasn't sure I wanted to watch it because all these shows, like I said before about The Gifted, have been canceled. Like, what's the point? But
yeah, isn't the final season of Jessica Jones?
Yeah, I'm stoked for that. Yeah. I love Jessica Jones. I loved all these shows except for Iron Fist and The Defenders. And I'm not going to watch Luke Cage season 2 because I heard that was not great.
Yeah.
But Punisher has been really good. I'm sad that that's not going to be coming back. But yeah, oversaturation of shows on Netflix. Like I can't even keep count of like they come out with a new show every day. Getting back to cancellations and renewals, I feel like this has been something that's been happening a lot more lately. Like a show will come out or that's been out like Game of Thrones or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We talked about this a little bit before we started recording. Umbrella Academy. The idea was like for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that this season that just started on Friday was going to be its final season. Like it was an abbreviated. I think this is only like 6 or 10 episodes and that was going to be it. Well, before the season even started, renewed for season 7. So, Game of Thrones after season 1, I think 2 episodes in, got renewed and then renewed.
I mean, yeah.
Umbrella Academy was renewed pretty instantly. I feel like this is starting to become a new norm where shows are getting renewed sometimes before they air, or is it like Moneyball for these TV shows, or where they're banking on?
I mean, like they're banking on like one show that has been renewed. And it's gotten an insane amount of time for renewals. Rick and Morty, that's a show that I very much enjoy. It's been renewed for like, I shit you not, like somewhere in the air of like 10 seasons. They basically they aired 2 seasons, and then there was all this talk about negotiation, and then they came out and said it's like an insane amount of seasons. Like it's more than just one.
Yeah, and Big Bang did that. I think before they ended, like they're renewed for seasons 11 and 12.
I mean, even the Simpsons is renewed through season 32. It's two extra seasons.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I mean, it's been the norm for, I'd say, for a few years now.
Yeah.
And part of it banks on the fact of like numbers crunching in terms of like, all right, how much does it cost us to make versus roughly what does this show earn us? And if the numbers say that, we can renew it for at least 2 more seasons and it's still going to pull in this amount of revenue for us, that's when they make that decision. They know that it's going to do that, so they're fully accepting of that decision.
But it does go against the norm that used to be, and I still feel like a lot of shows go by of basing it off of ratings.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I don't mind it because a lot of shows that I like do get these early renewals.
No, I don't mind it either. I mean, when a show that I like, when they say, "Oh, we're going to renew it for 2 more seasons," yes. Like the only thing is, the only downside to that I have is, to me, shows have a life cycle. Very rarely does a show stay consistently good for years and years and years and years. One show that I remember like ran the world and now nobody seems to give a shit about it, myself kind of included, is The Walking Dead, which I don't know if it's been renewed. It probably has. What is it now? Like 9, I know they jumped ahead of a few years and stuff like that. Like creatively, what is it? Like, because Andrew Lincoln, the guy who plays Rick, he's gone.
What's her name's
Maggie
gone?
Cohen, I think her name is. And like, she was gone, although I heard her show that she was going was like canceled after like 2
Whiskey
episodes.
Cavalier.
Yeah, so that was.
Did that actually officially get canceled?
I heard it did.
Let's see. I want to double check.
I heard it did. Like, because I remember people online kind of made the joke of like, oh, Maggie Cohen's leaving the show, but no, it's Lauren Cohen.
Lauren Cohen.
Lauren Cohen. Maggie's her character's name. Like, Lauren Cohen leaves The Walking Dead for a new show only to have it canceled like after 2 episodes or something like that. I remember it was some running joke with people. To me, shows have a life cycle and they need to end at some point. And I very much always prefer a show ends on the maker's terms, that they wrap the story in a satisfying way, that they conclude it. That, like, one of the things that always drives me nuts is when a show ends on a cliffhanger.
I hate that.
And then it gets canceled. Like, that's when I'm like, ugh.
Just going back real quick to Whiskey Cavalier, as of 2 days ago, it was on the bubble, but not yet canceled.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I hate that. I absolutely hate shows that end on cliffhangers. Like, I get, like, if you know you're gonna get renewed,
yes,
fine, do it 100%. Don't ever do it if, like, your show's an experiment. Like, if you're in a first season of like a really experimental show, like, come on, be smarter than that.
Yeah.
I think they did that with Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles, which I said it like Arnold Connor. I really liked that show, but I think
I watched an episode or 2 of it back in the day, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, they can't. I think it had 2 seasons, and it ended on a cliffhanger. Then that was it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, like shows like Firefly, which I mean,
luckily they got Serenity.
Yeah. But it's like if I were ever running a TV show, I would, unless they told me like we're giving you 2 seasons, don't end the season on a cliffhanger unless you know for a fact you're getting renewed for another season, because any fans that you have they're kind of left to suffer.
Oh yeah, and people have to write comics or fan fiction or it can get really bad. If you have shows that you like that you think are maybe on the bubble or are upset about that got canceled or happy that it got renewed, we want to hear about it. Let us know on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, or email us at permittedpod@gmail.com. Like I said at the beginning, I'm so stoked that Orville's back.
I'm really happy about that.
I think it's just, I hope it keeps going. I really do.
I do too.
Actually, one last thing I want to add. On the subject of TV, I forgot to mention it. This goes back to a previous episode. We talked about Arrow's legacy. Karen and I finally gave up.
On Arrow?
Yep, all of it. We got midway through most of these seasons. Every single season of these shows, I mean, every single season, like current season of the shows, including Supergirl, has just been awful. And it just got to a point where there's other things that we'd rather be watching. And we gave up. And Karen was like, I think we should stop watching them. I'm like, I think we should stop watching them too. We have Supergirl on the DVR. We might see that through because we really like it.
Yeah.
And then to kind of justify my decision and make me feel good about it, if you watch it, I'll give you a quick 5-second spoiler warning here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. They turn a character who is not a bad guy in the comics. It's Oliver Queen's sister, right? She is a good guy. She's kind of an anti-hero, but she's a good guy, Emiko Queen.
Okay.
And they turned her into a fucking villain on the show. Like, are you kidding? She ends up being the main baddie. I'm like, come on. Are you serious? Like,
I know I've said this in the past, but I am very grateful I never got into Arrow, just because I heard that they just ran it into the ground over the last few seasons.
I feel like I've wasted a lot of time on that show, and I regret it a little bit.
They're fine. They're taking it behind the woodshed, and
the Flash this season was awful. They introduced a future version of Barry and
oh boy,
and what's her name? Like, anyway, Barry's wife's daughter, who is a speedster, and you think she's good, but she's got an ulterior motive, ends up kind of being a bad guy, and it's just like, why does everybody need to be a bad guy? Like, it's just awful. They in Supergirl they mind wiped Kara's sister. Legends of Tomorrow is dealing with like mystical shit, and I'm just like, 5 seasons is like a good run for a show. 7 seasons like max. Like,
as I said, there are very few shows that consistently keep quality beyond like the 10 season mark. Like, it's very, very rare to find a show.
I mean, Stargate SG-1 went 10 seasons and had a couple of meh seasons in there, but managed to do well. Let's get into our final segment of the show. We've been kind of talking about it throughout. This is our 20th episode.
Yes.
We've talked about the next generation of consoles before a little bit, but it's getting closer to when they're going to announce, the new PlayStation, whether they call it the PS5 or not.
They'll probably be the PS5.
Whatever they call it.
They're pretty standard.
Are they going to call the new Xbox the Xbox One 2?
I don't know. Every time I think like, all right, they should call it this because of this. It's like they just go in a different direction.
Yeah, I've lost track of how many numerals and letters they've added to the end of the Xbox One. Before we even get to the new consoles, let's talk about this generation and Microsoft's kind of like shady money-making decision here to release a diskless Xbox One.
There's a reason for that, I feel. Now this is my feeling is they're testing the waters.
Yes.
They are testing the water because they want to see how well does this do? How well does it sell? What are people's impressions of it? Because the thing is that like, and whether it happens or not, like I've said this in the past, I am very much for physical games. I like owning physical games. I will never be a fan of all digital, and I will be drug kicking and screaming into that future.
Yeah.
If or when it happens. So having said that, I understand what they're doing. They want to see, like, is this a thing that people like, that they want, that we can, because let's be fair, they're still developing their next gen system. They could drop, let's say this thing takes off and sells like hotcakes.
Then that's
what you're going to get from the next console is you'll drop the disc reader and say, guess what? It's now a hard drive, this powerful CPU. We'll throw like a massive amount of hard drive space in it, and boom, there's your new Xbox.
I definitely see the benefits of it.
No, I do.
The timing of it is weird to me because you had both companies, Sony and Microsoft, release heavier versions of their consoles for like 4K, for 4K ability, with the PlayStation Pro and the Xbox One X.
Yes,
correct?
The One X. Yeah.
But Xbox also released the Xbox One S, which was like, I believe, a budget, right? A budget Xbox One.
It was like a...
Why not make the One S if you know that this is kind of the direction you're thinking about going and kind of running on the coattails of the Xbox One X? Why not release the S as the diskless machine instead of like this console generation is done. Like
it's pretty much
over. There's going to be no more exclusives really coming out until I believe the next console generation for either console.
Yeah, no major launches.
So I guess the timing of it's just weird because are people really buying new consoles right now? Like everybody I think who wants an Xbox or a PlayStation, the majority of those people have that.
No, I agree is that they've like this, it's already pretty much done. As I said, to me, this is like just they want to see what people's feeling is on this.
Do you think there's a number? Because like I said, like there's not going to be a lot of people buying new consoles right now. Do you have any idea like what they're looking?
I forget what the price point is, but I know it's much cheaper than a normal Xbox for this all digital one. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. So basically, maybe they're trying to grab the people that didn't have the money or don't have the money to get the big PS4 Pro or the One X or anything like that. Like they might be trying to grab that market just to say like, hey, look, you want like, say, oh, here, it's only $300 or something like that or whatever it is. Or
if I'm buying a diskless console, I want it to be under $300.
Yeah. I just threw out a number.
Because the rumor going around, and we'll get to this in a few minutes, is that the new consoles are not going to be cheap, like as expensive as they've ever been.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that. Like you, I'm a very big fan of physical media. Mm-hmm. I've bought a ton of digital games recently. Yeah. The big releases I buy, steelbook copies of or collector's edition copies of. I like to have their physical copies. I don't mind buying digital games, and if there is an all digital PlayStation 5, I'm fine with it. I guess the biggest thing is I won't be able to trade games in anymore.
Yeah.
But I've stopped kind of doing that anyway because I don't buy as many video games as I used to. I know you buy a lot more games. I mean,
I've actually slowed down quite a bit as well. Like, I still to this day haven't bought Far Cry New Dawn, which I'll probably get at some point. But games that even though they sucked, I still would have owned back in the day, like Anthem. Like, don't own it, have no intention of buying it, never will. Just because of the price point and the fact that I don't have the time to play all these multitude of games and stuff like that. I mean, I told you before we started recording, I'm on the fence about Rage 2, and Rage 2. Back in the day, like, that probably would have been a day one purchase for me. Like, it looks fun, it looks enjoyable, and all that other fun stuff. So, and like you, like, if the new Xbox is all digital, I will not like it. I will not be happy about it, but it's what I'm gonna have to live with.
So let me ask you, what would make you happy about a discless one? Like, because you talked about if we go discless, increase storage space. More capacity for a faster, CPU to, better graphics engine. If they can stuff basically a beefier machine into a discless console, would that, I guess, satisfy you?
I mean, that would be something I'd have to think long and hard about, because the question is let's say both Sony and Microsoft put out a new Xbox and a new PlayStation, and they say, all right, one is discless, one has the ability to play discs. However, the one that's discless, because we don't have to have like a disc reader in there, can have more hardware, more space, more powerful CPU stuff. Which one do you lean towards buying? I don't know. That's a tough call for me.
Personally, for me, I would go with the discless because I mean, it's no secret that both consoles are trying to compete with a kind of growing, the PC tech specs have just been ridiculous these days. And I know that people want those kind of tech specs in their consoles. So if I'm looking at a discless versus a physical media PS5, and they're like, this can basically run like a PC, then I'm all about the discless.
The thing is, though, is that like if you're talking about like it runs like a computer, I'll just tell you right now that Microsoft pretty much cornered that market already, because they're basically linking Xbox with the PC. And like for digital stuff, like they're basically saying like, you own it on one thing, you own it on the other.
Oh, but do you get your save files?
That I don't know. I haven't delved into that whole mess or anything like that, just because I don't own many things digitally. But so I can't give you all the specifics of it, but Microsoft has already been moving in that direction for a while. And if you're going to say like a console is just going to be a home computer that sits by your TV, like Microsoft pretty much has already like took off in that race, while Sony was still kind of at the starting line going like,
that's one place where Sony's been a little bit behind the curve. This isn't on our outline here, but I do kind of want to mention, there's always been the quote unquote console wars.
Yeah.
Who do you think won this console generation?
I mean, like the thing is that the one that people always kind of forget to mention is Nintendo, because the Switch sold like a zillion units and such. But to me, the Switch it's a cute console that has really great exclusives, but then it just drops off.
That is my Switch experience.
That's the Wii. That was the N6. I mean, the N64 was a little better about that.
The N64 was still probably their best console.
Yeah. And the thing is, and I've said to people, like, look, if you like Nintendo or you like the Switch, I'm not trying to take that away from you, but for me, as the kind of gamer that I am, it's like, and don't get me wrong, I would love to play like a lot of the Nintendo games. Like a lot of them are great games. Their exclusives are probably some of the best games.
Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey are some of the most fun I've had.
Yeah, and I give Nintendo all the props for that. Like when it comes to making their own games, they do it right. Like give them nothing but props for that. However, when it comes to third-party titles, like they fall flat on their face. Like they're terrible at it. So if discounting now, if we're talking about like pure sales, like Nintendo probably won just because the Switch's price and all that other stuff. However, between the two, like to me, the big giants between Sony and Microsoft, I probably will say Sony, just because they had the better exclusives, they had the better name recognition and stuff like that. However, and I'm getting a little bit off topic. I feel that Microsoft has moved to rectify that with the next console generation. There's been a lot of stuff that I've heard and read about that basically Microsoft just kind of like went, okay, we lesson learned, like we're coming back.
Yeah,
now.
I think they kind of realized that Sony won for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One console war. 360. As much as I don't like to believe it, blew PS3 out of the water.
Yeah. Because I know that Microsoft like basically bought the company that, for example, like bought Ninja Theory. Like they bought them, which made the spectacular Senua's Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice as well. Like they own a few other. They picked up a few other indie studios that, like, if I'm Microsoft, I'm turning to them and saying, all right, we have a console coming out in a year or two. Start making stuff for it. Like, here's all the money you want. Like, we want exclusives. Like, we want our new console to dominate this little cycle.
There's so many exclusives for the PS4 that came out that I just completely fell in love with. Horizon Zero Dawn, amazing game. Spider-Man PS4. Uncharted 4 is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I don't talk about that game enough. Uncharted 4 is really a amazing.
Yeah, I own it. I've never played it.
Funny enough. Have to play it.
I should, but I was going to play through the first 3 games, but just never got through them.
And it's only going to get better with new technology. So let's talk about tech specs real quick.
Yeah.
So I have them up first. So we'll talk about the rumored PlayStation 5 tech specs first. Supposed to have an 8-core AMD Zen 2 CPU, which I've heard is supposed to be like ridiculous. I know it was a big deal when Sony announced that they were working with, or the rumor that they were working with AMD for the PS5.
Okay.
That's a big deal. I don't know too much about how the GPU stuff works, but they're also going with AMD for what is called the Navi, which is, I guess, from Avatar, GPU. It has 56 compute units. I'm guessing that's good. And 1.8 gigahertz, 12.9 teraflops of power, which
I've never been one, like, whenever they throw out those numbers, like, it has, like, 9 teraflops. Right. Like, wow, I don't know what that means. Like,
these two things I can talk on, and I know are very good. Rumored to have 24 gigs of RAM. That is huge. That's going to help with loading times, just the ease of use of the console, and then also a solid state drive, which also makes things.
Oh yeah, like, I mean, what little I know about electronics, I can tell you a solid state causes your computer to boot up like that.
I put a solid state drive in my old PS4. I think you could swap it out for a solid state drive, and it made things faster. There was something you could do with a solid state. I could be wrong about that, but that's absolutely huge. Do you know anything rumored about the Xbox?
I don't, as I said. Like, I already know my console choice. Like, I go Xbox.
You're gonna
go Xbox. You know, I've had Xbox since the original Xbox. Although I've owned like a PlayStation 2, I own a PlayStation 4, but I got those kind of much later in the console cycle, so to speak.
We didn't talk about this either. Apparently, there's 2 different models of new Xbox that are going to come out. There are 2 different code names: Xbox Lockhart and Xbox Anaconda.
Okay.
This makes it sound like the Xbox One is going to be, the new Xbox is going to be underpowered compared to the PS5. They're saying 12 gigs of RAM for the Lockhart and 16 gigs for the Anaconda. Both the Xbox and the PS5 will have solid state drives. But I didn't know about this whole 2 model thing. I'm wondering if one of them is a diskless.
I mean, it's possible.
And one of them is, a physical media.
Yeah,
Xbox.
I mean, like, at the end of the day, like,
you're going to get a new Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is all speculation on ours and anybody's part, because my feeling is, I don't know, I know it should be coming up soon, is I know E3 hasn't happened yet this year, and if they don't announce them then, which they probably won't, I think they have their own developers conferences.
They do.
Like,
you don't think they're going to announce them at E3?
No, because the thing is, when
I feel like they're running late.
Yeah, a little bit. But my feeling is that they're going to be announced this year, and the consoles will drop fall of next year in 2020.
So fall 2021?
No, 2020. Remember, we're in 2019 right now.
That's right. Yes, we are in 2019. Yeah, that would make sense.
No, yeah, I feel that, like, that way 2020 is when they're going to drop, because, they like to announce them like a little over a year out, just so that, depending on the price point, and that's that's a big issue with a lot of people, myself included. Like I think the One X was like $500.
They were not cheap this time around.
No, they're not cheap. And I mean, like I can tell you right now that like from what you're telling me about the potential PS5, like you're probably looking at like
$700.
$600-700. So, I mean, and that's what people don't realize is that like, yeah, oh my God, you have this thing and it has like 20 teraflops of power. Like that's going to cost you.
It's going to cost you a lot of money.
It's going to cost you money. So,
before we go, anything specifically that you're looking for in the next gen console, the next gen X, because you're going to get Xbox, next gen Xbox.
I mean, I'm looking for Microsoft to kind of right the wrongs with their exclusives. Like Microsoft has had a few exclusive games, some of them better than others. Like I did enjoy the gameplay of Quantum Break, which I disagreed with their live action crap that they added on top of it to kind of almost make it a sidebar TV show on top of the game. Another game which I actually call one of the greatest platformers of this or any other generation, which I know the sequel is supposed to come out this year, is the sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest. Fantastic game. Like no dialogue whatsoever, but it is one of the few games that I legit teared up at, just because of how powerful the music and the emotion of it was and the art style and all that stuff like that. So I'm looking for Microsoft to basically roll out its exclusives and to say like, all right, you know what? We fucked up with the Xbox One. Like, we tried to make it more of a home media console and stuff like that, which funny enough, that's kind of what consoles have become. And I remember they got so much shit for it, but that's because I use my Xbox to play 4K movies and stuff like that when I want to watch a 4K disc.
So that's kind of what I'm going to leave off with. That's what I'm looking for in a PS5. I'm more and more thinking about cutting the cord. We have cable. We like our cable, but I want something that can be my home base for everything. So if I want to play my PlayStation, I can play my game. If I want to watch Netflix, I can watch Netflix. If I want to watch cable, if they could really make it like easy to use and really just all integrated, then maybe I'll get PlayStation View.
Yeah.
But it's got to become that even more, and everything's got to be 4K compatible because I'm a 4K. I'm an audio nerd. I'm a visual nerd.
I want to hear a pin drop in the background.
I need all of that, and I swear to God, if there's no backwards compatibility this time around, I'm going to be pissed. And that's a big issue if it's going to be discless.
Backwards compatibility has never bothered me. It just never has.
There are just some games I'd really like to play from
I
the past.
I know, but the thing is, though, is that, like, when it, like, make it, if you want to make it backwards compatible, make it digital.
Yeah.
Like, say, like, hey, because when you try and make it with the disc, that creates all sorts of hardware.
But see, Nintendo did this right with their, like, backwards compatible. Like, if you pay for their online, you get, like, all these games from the past.
And that's a solid
so
move.
Give me that if you're not going to let me play the old
do.
discs. Yeah. At least give me that, like a service where I can. They kind of already do have it, but like one that I don't have to pay extra for or pay per game.
I mean, I'll probably cut. This is probably one of the last things I say, but I know Microsoft over the last. I don't know if if the PlayStation Store has it as well, but like they've been putting out a lot of old Neo Geo games.
Yeah.
Like, like Baseball Stars 2, which I love the hell out of that game. The Samurai Showdown series. Like, that's the stuff, like, charge me like $7-8. That's how much each of those games cost. Like, charge me $7-8, add little achievements to it, or, trophies, as PlayStation calls them, and let me have fun with my old games. If you're going to do some kind of backwards thing, like, don't try and make it like, I want to be able to play a PlayStation 4 and my PlayStation 5 with the disc. Like, no, that just creates problem. Like, I have an Xbox 360 still. If I want to play a 360 game that much, I will fire up my 360. Yeah. So,
well, that is going to do it for this episode. Do us a favor and like us on Facebook, like us on Instagram @PermittedPod. You can follow us on Twitter @PermittedPod. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. We will be back next week with episode 21. Have a good night.
By airplane to the rocket, by taxi to the airport, by front door to the taxi.